What's going on, PAX? Are we good? All right. I'm glad to hear it. Hey, I'm going to be looking at my phone, but I'm not like waiting on mail from like a mortgage bank or something. They're just the questions. I just type them in my phone, so it's sort of like in a rap video where they're in the booth and they're like looking at the phone. It's a cool thing to do. It's not rude. That's the main thing, because he's going to be talking and I'm going to be looking at my phone, but it's not because I'm a bad person. And it's not because my guest today is anything less than scintillating. Ladies, gentlemen, and every possible coordinate in between, please welcome to the stage Luke Smith. That's Luke Smith. So, yeah. Now I want to just start saying other names and seeing if those people will appear as well. I feel like I've been imbued with a great power.
Try it.
Ladies and gentlemen, and every possible coordinate in between, Sid Meier.
I would really like
Sid Meier. No.
It'd be great if Sid would come out.
God, wouldn't that be great?
That'd be awesome.
No, listen, I would move this table.
I'd have to go get my
another
phone.
chair, and then be like, well, Sid, explain to us the mysteries of the universe. Make a game about me.
I think we would give him both chairs so he could stretch, and then we would just sit in front. But in a way that's not like gross for you to look at. You know, like.
No, we would be sort of like just in repose. They're just laying out and just trying to just be available to Sid, I think is how it would actually work.
Are you saying you'd present?
Yes, that's exactly. Hey, no, this is exactly the type of material that I'm looking for. Like, I understand that there's some kind of a destiny thing or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
there's a thing.
But my fantasy, yes, indeed, and you should shout. Woo. So that's 5 copies right there.
That was like, 5 solid woos. Thank you. We appreciate that.
It's nice. It's nice. But I know that you have a tendency, and I have a similar tendency, so I respect and appreciate it, to run your goddamn mouth. And I have every intention of just juicing you.
What? I don't know what you're talking about, man. Listen, I'm on good behavior. There's gonna be no exciting new headlines.
Yeah, exactly. You have to understand, so my intention, like your intention is probably just to sort of get the game out there and then start looking at the data that comes in. My intention as the proprietor of a series of global shows is to dominate the news cycle. And so I think of this as creating a kind of rhetorical cluster bomb where it'll just detonate every few days, new revelations. They'll be pouring over this like Nostradamus. They'll find new offensive things that you've said, but you'll have to like reverse the words. You're going to be speaking in acrostics. I'm thinking about
just not doing interviews anymore, like just holding up cards. Like if I can fit it on a card and just present you the card, I think that would be a good answer.
So you're trying to port Twitter to the real world.
Yeah, exactly. But
nice.
But if you're just holding the card and you look sort of like sad, like they're not going to be mad. I don't think people get upset about that. They'll be like, oh man, he looks sad. He looks really serious about it.
Yeah, exactly. Just let the emoji speak. You know what I mean? So, but an example of this phenomenon, if you will, is that, I read an interview with you where you like told the interviewer that you didn't really know what the darkness was yet. And so you didn't want to investigate it. And I was like, motherfucker, that's like the first rule of Fight Club, right? Is that people imagine, right, that I have got some kind of, ability in a narrative context to write stuff. But all I have done is very carefully excise the parts of the information that I don't know and then implied that I know. That's my whole thing, and I've done very well with it.
Yeah. Right?
It's like nobody had to know. Like, what is it that compels you to tell the truth?
Yeah, exactly. Like people talk about they want the truth, but they don't want the truth. Like they don't want the truth.
Can they handle the truth? Is that what you're saying?
You can't handle the truth. No, they don't. They want a version of. They want the acceptable to them version of the truth.
Right.
Like rather than the version of the truth that is. I think some of what you're talking about is like the version of the truth that like demystifies something.
Right.
Like, and so I think that's a good example of one that you like in some part of your brain you like want to take that one back, but it's out there and you're like, okay, well, when it's time to talk about that, we'll have a plan.
Yeah, I think that it's fascinating. Now, but if we want to get into the truth behind that, was there a period of time where the darkness, and obviously I'm not asking for like the real, like whatever the actual definition of it is, was there a period of time where you thought you knew what it was, and then in the course of making Destiny, a creature that changed several times, like even after release,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a
like
good way of describing it.
a chimera. Was there a period of time where you felt confident in your knowledge of what that meant?
I think we've had like an ongoing thing here at Bungie where the darkness, a word like darkness means many things to many people.
Yeah.
Even on the team, like there's a thing that we've talked about internally where like there was a period of time at Bungie where if you asked 10 people what Destiny the game was about, not just narratively, but like what type of game is it, you might get 11 different answers.
So hold on. So one of those motherfuckers is answering twice?
Yeah, dude. Or it's like you're you're taking 3 people's answers and combining them into the new 11th answer. But you get to this place, and this is one of our challenges. Like the growth of the company has been tremendous. Like Bungie's gotten way bigger. Getting everyone like up to current with what the plan is, like internal communications is super hard. You can sometimes just go like read about it on Kotaku, and they can sort of function.
They know.
They seem to know, but. There were more Kotaku woos than Destiny 2 woos.
Yeah.
So that book is going to do great.
Yeah. It's going to be hot material. Yeah, because, I mean, for me, that's the curiosity. Also, as someone who has done writing, obviously, I just want to put my hat in the ring. I can come up with a good idea about what it is. Like, for real, like, it wouldn't take me super long. Like...
We're good. We got one.
All right, I got to make sure.
You could come by and check it out, give some feedback. We can set up a thing, get you an NDA, come hang.
Listen, I have been to the Bungie office before, and it is so big, and you can like look down from this upper tier down, and I can see them like dragging people out of cubicles and like eating each other. Like it's like some kind of game reserve on the development floor. And I'm terrified. Like I don't want to. They're like, hey, you can go down into the pit, and it's like, well, I typically have avoided pits.
It's on the main floor of the. We're like in 2 buildings now.
Oh yeah.
And so we sort of have like the building that we call Galleria, which is like the building that you've probably seen in tour videos, and the building you're talking about with the pit.
It used to be a movie theater. Or something
Yeah,
like that?
it's like a converted movie theater, and then we have another building which is adjacent to it, sort of Site B, if you're a Jurassic Park fan, and it's the one with the windows. So it's the building where when you go over there, you get to see things like sky and light. And you're like, oh, shit, there are mountains nearby. It's pretty cool.
Well, no.
I don't see those very often.
But the reality is that, if you look around on the walls, you can see primitive markings. You can see the beginnings of some kind of religion being formed. There's a lot of iconography in the game, and some of it is meaningful, I think, to employees. You have at least 3 warring cults in the pit. That's all I'm going to say. And it's it's something you're going to have to manage. It's something you're going to have to manage eventually. Just, I don't know, consider it. There might be some sort of cosplay weaponry you can get on the show floor, brandish that, see if it tamps it down a little bit.
We're gonna start branding people when they start, like make them pledge and then just burn it into. We haven't decided the location yet.
No one knows if it's true.
There's still a woo for that.
Well,
someone's into branding, like cattle branding.
But you don't.
Not like a nice T-shirt.
But in Bungie culture, you don't thermally image people with these sigils, but you do have distinctions based on how long you've been at Bungie, right?
Yeah, we have like but the distinctions only really come to light during the annual war, the pentathlon. The internal conflict.
No, hold on. So we've been fucking around before, but I want to make sure you understand. The pentathlon is a real event, and it is the only time where these tribes sort of separate and compete. But what are the names of the tribes?
So there are, so there used to only be 4. Newbies.
You have a fifth?
There's like additional tribes. We're big. We've grown. We had to add a new tribe. So there's the newbies.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I mean, really creative. There's middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, like the 8th graders of Bungie. That was a good time for everyone, right? Middle school. It's fun. You guys were cool then, right? You're pretty awesome. There's the old school, that's like where you start to old school. Like that was pretty cool in 2002. Like felt good. Then there's Grizzled Ancients, which is the goal. That's where you want to be. You're like that's that's an old Bungie term. And then the new one that we've created is something called Disembodied Souls. And once you're a disembodied soul,
so they have a disadvantage in any of the physical games.
yeah.
Because they're non-corporeal.
Yeah, the cornhole competition, this bag just drops through their hands when they try to throw.
But you have to try to give it to them for at least 15 minutes.
Yep. You have to use the whole time. But the disembodied souls get redistributed. They're not actually their own team. Because
really?
Yeah, so there's this thing where if you just join the company, and I remember back in my first pentathlon in 2007, back when I started, like we always, we didn't have disembodied souls. So it just was like you competing against, Jason Jones and like all the people who've been there from the start of the company as the Grizzled Ancients, and then you're just destroying them in Halo 1 because they're old and you're still young
and fresh.
Yeah. Where now I'm like one of the old guys getting destroyed. But the disembodied souls get redistributed through the company. So you're a disembodied soul, and you're like, oh man, like I hope I don't get sent to middle school.
Hold on a second. So they get reincarnated?
Yeah, they get sent back. Yeah, they get sent back to another, and it's like random and it rotates every year. And we do this for like a real like practical, non-jokey reason, which is then you get to meet more folks from the company, and you get to hang out with some of these old farts who've been around and are dusty, and they get to like breathe new life.
It's super smart.
And they can tell the people who can still play games because they're young, like, hey, what you should really do here, and they feel like coaches. But really, you coach because your fingers can't do the thing anymore.
Well, no, they've adopted a single shape. You know what I mean? The hands are now just like a kind of geometry that gets slapped against the controller.
Well, for a bunch of us, the hands just like get to a position like this, which is what your hand looks like when it just holds a coffee cup. Like that's like I just have like a claw of coffee.
And you can recognize one another in the hall. It's like you
just tip cups. Going to a meeting.
But in that vein, just of continually just saying true things, and then the world reforms itself around that new narrative. I mean, you were working over at. I mean, am I correct about this? This is at 1UP, right?
I worked at 1UP for about a year.
Yeah. 1UP, right?
Yeah, that's like that site's those woos. That site's coming back.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. It could have been another 1UP employee, as far as we know. It's like, yes, I remember.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if I recall correctly, because I remember reading this article at the time and being like, I'm not 100% sure I've seen this phenomenon occur, and it seemed important to me. So you had written, functionally speaking, a piece of criticism about, I think it was Halo 2.
Yeah, it was an article called Broken Halo.
Yeah, right? Broken
Real
Halo.
charmer.
Yeah. But Broken Halo, bringing in those literary references. Very tasteful.
Yeah.
It's the hallmark of your career. So, what I wasn't even trying to, okay. I wasn't trying to.
We're going to need more water. For sure.
To moisten my interlocutor. So it's like this. You broke it down I mean, this was like a fucking autopsy. Like, you broke it down in a way, like, it's one thing, like, if I go onto my site, let me just compare. I will come on and I will make some oblique references, like, to maybe like the Oedipus complex. And then I might include a typo or two just to kind of keep it spicy. And then I'll have some kind of a smug send-off at the end. Like, that's my praxis for game criticism. And you can't argue with the results. But, you know, I inspired a generation, apparently. And so, but what happened with you is you actually went like gun by gun. I mean, I remember this, right? Like, you broke down individual weapons and the problems with interacting with each of them and how they felt and what they meant in a systemic way. Like, this was a piece of game criticism that had like technical rigor in a really, really novel way.
I think you're being way too kind. It might have had a bunch of those elements, but it really was like I was mad.
Yeah.
Like I was mad. Like I was more in my entire life, I have never been more excited for anything than I was for Halo 2. Like Halo 2 was the thing that I was looking forward to more than any piece of entertainment that I've experienced, you know, in the 10 million years I feel like I've been alive. Like I was just excited for it. And when it came out, and for me as a player, and it didn't meet my expectations, like this was like, you didn't have a Twitter or anything back in 2004. Like
you had to work for 1UP.
Yeah, well, no, I wasn't even working for 1UP when I wrote that. I was a stringer. I was a freelance writer.
Oh, geez.
I was freelancing for Xbox Nation, and I was working at a alt weekly in Detroit. Like alt weekly, like Seattle Weekly, like, but the alt weekly I worked at was called Real Detroit Weekly, and it still has like the just dirty pages in the back, and you're trying to like make the pages up front be awesome, but you're like, you know that people are just getting the magazine and they're like, you know, using it for toilet paper and then getting to the back page. And that was my job. And you're not writing about video games in that job. Like, you don't. I was like, oh, I'll have a game review section, and we did, which was cool. But then then Halo 2 came out, and there were just like, it was not only the weapons, but there was stuff about the networking. And I think if I went back and read the thing about, like, anything I wrote about the networking, it would just be like just shameful and embarrassing, because it was like totally misinformed. I think the frustration, and I think this is kind of what happens with writing online in general. Like, the frustration is real because it's a function of, it's like an outgrowth of passion. But understanding what exactly was wrong isn't always that's where the critiques can miss. I think with Halo 2 there was stuff that, you know, I was right about, and there was stuff that I was wrong about. But the first day that I started at the office, Jamie Griezmer, who now he's a Sandbox guy. He's awesome, super talented game designer. He said, "You're that friggin' asshole who wrote the Broken Halo piece." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "And we hired you?" And I was like. And he's like, it's a good article, like, it's a good piece. But, like, you know, and I was blown away that anyone had read that, because, like, you know, I don't, like anything I've written or worked on, I don't think about.
Writing for the internet is really, really weird.
Yeah, I don't think about people actually consuming it that much, like.
No.
Because I think if you did,
you can't see it.
I think if you did, you just you'd go insane. I'm kind of glad, like, sneakily, I'm kind of glad there are only 5 woos for Destiny 2, because I'm like, oh, cool, 5 people are gonna get it. That's awesome. That's great.
Literally, it's
that
like,
doesn't make me nervous.
I think you're gonna be okay, man. Listen, so, but it's like, imagine that you're like behind the counter at Subway, and there are no visible customers, and then you make a sandwich that you think would be good, but you don't eat it. You throw it out the open door.
But then it's just like a
football.
It's like a sad German Shepherd walks by and gets some of it, and crow comes down.
No. The German Shepherd will come over. It's like, so now I have explained the writing half of it. Let me now explain the reading half of it. A bored, like a congenitally bored German Shepherd is sniffing along the ground. It's taking in all of these subtleties and all these nuances of the natural world. It just plants its wet nose in the middle of the sandwich and just digs around in it for a while. It emerges with lettuce hanging like blinds from the nose, and then it leaves without having consumed what you made.
There's no dog on the planet that would do that.
I'm just
It's like
I'm just
some
saying,
canine.
like,
It's a police dog.
no,
It's an old police dog.
no.
Okay, go on.
It's masturbatory on both sides. And it's like, but no one actually sees any of it. You're just kind of doing it over here, and then they're doing it over there, and there's a wall between you, and you assume that someone is doing it, but you don't know. I think I figured it out.
I'm dealing with some other stuff.
Here, so this is, but anyway, the practical result of that article is that you ended up actually getting hired at Bungie. Was it a result of the article in some way?
No, because the time like 3 years passed. Like basically in 2004, I wrote. It was 2004 or 5, early 2005 maybe when I wrote the piece, and then I started at Kotaku, and I started there in like 2005 I think, and I worked there for a handful of months. It was probably longer than, just less than a year. And then I went to 1UP. And when I went to 1UP, the Broken Halo piece was one of the pieces that I like cited in my like, I want to be your news editor thing. And that's where I started at 1UP. But I never, ever wanted to do reviews. I was just not interested in the reviews. I was much more interested in writing about games from the perspective of like news, and writing it from about the perspective of like
industry.
Yeah, industry stuff. Like you get these press releases, and you're like, I'm not just gonna like copy paste and put this out. Like I want to figure out why you're not gonna do this. And that was something I was like super passionate about in the way that I was not passionate at all about writing reviews.
Yeah, but it's like divination. Like when you get a press release, like every time I'm given a press release with a quote, like a boilerplate quote in it, I have to change it every time. Like that's what I do. And I just want there to be some kind of oasis inside the press release where a conscious thinking person can rest. Because it's like trying to understand what a press release says is like divination. You mean trying to pull those apart must have been entertaining, like in a mystic sense.
Yeah, it was interesting because they're like crafted very specifically to do like very specific things and to paint a picture, and then the picture sometimes is true, but the picture sometimes is not what you think, and the not what you think part was the part that I was more interested in.
Yeah. Trying to find like the negative space. Like what is the one number they are not saying here?
Yeah, why when and this was in this other life.
Yeah.
Why would you use these words, company, to say how many units you've sold or shipped or whatever? Like why are you
shipped distinction
sold, shipped, revenue, like that was all stuff that like in like 2005 and 2006 was like I could just see the eyes glassing over like, tell us about the raid, shut up.
Well, no, you will be harangued about this raid, don't worry.
But that was the type of stuff that I was like genuinely interested in, because at that time I didn't see a lot of coverage in that way, and I felt like it was a way that 1UP could be a little bit different. And then the first day I got to the office there, when I was late on even arriving because I had this like horrible car accident in Nebraska in a snowstorm.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah. Oh yeah, literally, and then we sat down and did this podcast thing, and then that became something that was like basically the reason to go to work every week, was to do the podcast with John and Shane and Garnet, and that was the 1UP Yours podcast, which was just awesome, super fun.
No, still loved, still well loved actually.
I mean it's a great show.
Yeah. Go check it out. So I suspect that the answer to this is going to sound bad, but I don't think that it actually is bad. I think that in a way it's probably a positive thing. Is Destiny your favorite game? I think that it is.
At times.
Is it now that it's like past cert or whatever? Is it your favorite game?
For the last 3.5 years. I think it's probably been 3.5 years. My life can be boiled down very simply to a small number of discrete states. I am sleeping, I am playing a version of Destiny that's in development, I am playing a version of Destiny that I have at home, or I am at the office. And for the most part, that's just kind of been it. And I think when you actually think back at that, I think it means it's something. Like the fact that Destiny 2's coming out, and I have it at home right now. It's like sitting on my counter. I can play it, and I'm whitelisted for the servers.
Don't be a dick, man.
And,
it's like,
but
that's
I'm
not
not
necessary.
Just wait. I'm building to it. But I'm not going to, and I don't want to play it because I want to be there when everyone else is there on Tuesday. Like I want to be there when my friends can play because I don't. Yeah.
It will be Destiny when it's there.
Yeah.
Like when other people can play it. I see. It's not Destiny yet.
No, it's not. It's a disc with bits that I'm familiar with and the team is familiar with, but it's not Destiny till everyone else shows up. Like, oh, cool, I'm throwing this sweet party. Like, when does the party start? Like, when you're like, oh, look I got the cheesy popcorn and the right beer.
It's just you.
Me, like, this is great.
It's just you and a bunch of dips.
Yeah, exactly. It might be that after people show up too. It depends on who I invited. But yeah, like it's not Destiny till the world's full of everyone else. Like, and right. I don't mean that everyone else like, oh, it's the rest of the company. Like, no. It's when everyone else can get in the door. And so, right. To your original question, is it my favorite game? Yeah. I don't know if it's my favorite game. It is one of my favorite games for sure. And I feel like a true sense of purpose working on it, which I think is one of these things that's really important about like finding something you love. Is like find something that you feel purpose doing. And for Destiny, I feel a bunch of purpose working on it because it's something that I want to go home and play. And the opportunity to get to work on something that I want to go home and play at the end of the day, it's pretty awesome, pretty exciting.
Well, yeah, and the opportunity also to be interviewed by Jerry Holkins, co-founder, Penny Arcade, PAX, Child's Play.
Woo!
I wanted to get my 4 woos so that we could be on the same tier.
We are.
Hey, so you decided for some reason a mental condition of some kind, a disease, to make a game that is a shooter and an MMO, and these communities are ravenous. They are enthusiastic.
Yeah, very.
In quotes, they're enthusiastic like a hyena is enthusiastic about a gazelle, insofar as their enthusiasm involves tearing apart and devouring the gazelle, right? So, it's basically like making a buffet for locusts. Right? And I'm not saying that they're insects or that they're carnivorous dogs, but I'm saying that these are communities that are deep in it. There's a lot of theory crafting. They hit these raids and they're producing spreadsheets that break down all the drops. Like, you're tweaking this stuff in a spreadsheet or something like that, and they're basically reverse engineering it based on, they are dismantling these games like the instant that they come out. Like, so what is it like to make something that there's never enough of? Right? Like, what is it like just to continually throw your life into this hole?
Yeah, you have to.
Because you can never actually do it, right?
Yeah.
You can't win. Like, you've made a game that you can't win.
It's uphill both ways.
You know what I was going to say? It's like, can God make a rock so large he can't move it? No, but Luke Smith can make an interminable void that will devour his life and ultimately his body.
Is that going to be? Do you think that's going to be like sooner or later? Like, how much time?
Listen,
how many more of these do I got?
I don't have a Palantir, man. I can't gaze into that shit. I'm just saying. So you have to understand, like, up front that really is the task, is to make something that people can play again and again, the same thing.
Yeah. It's for us, like the buffet ate by locusts. Like, I've never heard that before. That's pretty good. Like that. I'm disappointed I won't be able to use that at an upcoming Bungie team meeting.
Dude, listen, I want it in a deck. It's got to be in the PowerPoint, and get a cool font, man. Get a premium font.
Like a Futura or like what do you... So I think you're describing the nature of the beast here, which is it is the unwinnable war. Like people will always consume everything we build faster than we can build it, and that's sort of the challenge, and that's also I mean it's not, I don't want to say it's like the opportunity, because I think it is unwinnable. I agree with you that I think it's something that, you know, no matter how much we build, no matter how fast we build it, like the might of the many will exceed the effort of the, you know, less than your many at Bungie. Like we have many, but not many.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So you have to, I mean, in terms of like how it doesn't turn myself or the team into like empty, destroyed husks, you have to sort of steel yourself against that frustration. You have to know that it's an inevitability, and you also have to keep in mind that, like the thing I talked about earlier, like, you know, frustration is an outgrowth of passion. Like if you make something and no one talks about it, no one cares about it, no one's made happy by it, no one's pissed about it, you made something that didn't matter. And with Destiny, like, you know, we've found all of those parts of the spectrum. Yeah. we've found joy to anti-joy.
No, it's like it's an evil version of It's a Small World, after all, where you just see yourself in varying states of decay.
Yeah. This is great. I'm gonna need a. Can we get a beer or something too? Like just something, like maybe like something harder. For like.
No. It seems tough, and you don't seem to have been abraded by it. I mean, you were able to get here under your own power.
Yeah. Yes,
you know what I mean?
On time, which was
No,
great. I didn't know I didn't know if I was going to make it through traffic or what, but I allowed myself plenty of time.
Nice.
I didn't know how busy it would be.
No, I appreciate it, man. So, how have you failed as a designer?
Do you want like what do you like? Give me more.
You
of
can
this.
ask me a question too, if you want. But don't. Because I'll answer it and get in trouble.
So how? Yeah, I think how.
Yeah,
have
I mean,
failed?
because I know that it's like, because sometimes people will write in, or they might slide into my DMs.
Yeah.
Which is I've heard is a thing. And they will tell me how I have failed according to some aesthetic mechanism that they have designed and assessed my stuff through. But I know what I was trying to do, and I actually know when I haven't done it.
Yep.
But we're finite creatures, and we don't always have the opportunity to succeed in the way that we would desire.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, as one person who makes things, like to another person who makes things, in a context where I'm in a position to understand what you mean. What has not landed? Tell me something that hasn't landed, and then if you want to, you can tell me how you fixed it.
Or didn't fix it.
Well, no, like I said, finite creatures.
So I think there's a broad way that designers and certainly myself can fail, which is to forget who it's for. I think at different points along the way, so basically thinking of it as a purely abstract system of inputs and outputs. Yeah, and you forget the user at the end of it. You forget about the player, and you can see this at times when we've made something that's too difficult or something. I'm trying to give you like a really specific example. So here's a super specific example. In
the jumping puzzle in Oryx.
No, that's a triumph of will. And the team did an awesome job.
Dude, you jump on a platform and then a piston fucking shoots you into space.
It's a piston, or as it's been affectionately referred to internally, a dick wall.
Luke Smith, high people play these games, and you need to think about them.
Oh, we do. We do.
I know. Because I hear them.
Do you remember Double Dragon for the arcade or Nintendo?
Motherfucker, come on.
Okay. Dude, more people buy that game. Yeah. Double Dragon's gonna be huge. So there's a sequence when you get to the castle at the end, basically, Machine Gun Willie's fortress, where there are these blocks that shoot out of the wall and knock you. And that was the thing that I was looking exactly at that and was like, I bet you in 3D this would be pretty cool. And I asked the raid team, because they're making the raids. I was like, could we have something like this? And show them the footage. And one of the guys looked at me. He's like, you just want like a wall of dicks. And I was like, well, they don't have to look like them. Like that's not, they don't, but we had to, like while we were building the raid, like refine the protrusions to look less phallic.
The emitters.
One day you go to, you're in the playtest and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's like, it's some Geiger shit, man. I mean, it gets into some deep psychological structures.
So back to my failure.
Yes, please. We can speak on it at length.
A specific example from Halo Reach really does come to mind, where the mistuning of a particular number during the progression curve meant that the time to reach something like sergeant or staff sergeant was like 5 or 10x more than it was supposed to be, and it was something like the 4th or 5th rank in the curve when you were going up, and that was like the ranking system was supposed to be like, as you rank up, you get more opportunities to get different gear with your bucks. And what this did was it created this like horrible cliff, and we weren't patching that game, and so this horrible cliff was just going to exist. So you had to climb this like horrifying mountain of progression to get to this thing that maybe I'm the only person who remembers this, but yeah, exactly. That dude is pissed.
Dude,
That is a staff sergeant or something.
is still mad.
Yeah, he's still like, nope. Just like a lightning bolt. I'm angry. And so that one, I mean, in terms of like, I like input the wrong numbers with my own hands. Like that one feels pretty bad. Like the,
Well, because it forks out, it's like a number, and
Yeah.
then it just spreads out through this whole system.
and you'd think, just being a logical, rational, and reasonable person, that going in and changing a number is really easy. And a bunch of it is at times.
Right.
But for Halo Reach in particular, we didn't have like the aggressive patching and stuff that we've developed for Destiny.
But also and the data collection too. That's really sophisticated.
That
now.
failure will just live on forever. Like where in a game like Destiny, we've had opportunities to sort of like come behind and clean up and like,
Oh yeah. Because I spent from launch almost out to the summer making fun of my friend Mike Krahulik for playing Destiny, right? And then I ended up coming in around House of Wolves, and the experience that I had was really great. And he was talking to me about these things that had happened to him, like all this like trench warfare against these mysterious numbers, and I'm like, 40. I'm like ready to fucking kill motherfuckers. Like, it's like I don't know what you're talking about. Look at my hat,
Yeah, and the rough edges, like ultimately are things that like define the character both of the game and the community. And there are places where we've looked at the game before, and I think it's through the lens of nostalgia. I remember when is way more valuable than when you're in the moment. This fucking sucks. But like we've looked at these things and wondered. Certainly at times with Destiny 2, like, oh my gosh, like you wonder if those chips in the sphere from Destiny 1 were those things that people ultimately in hindsight loved, or are those things you're like, we should keep just file that down, like, and so and that doesn't mean the game's a perfect sphere. I'm sure there are, like, we could probably meet again in 2 weeks and go through a new list of failures.
No,
a very fresh, like a hot list.
No. Even the Traveler isn't a perfect sphere. So I got a note on Twitter, a question from one of the designers over at Wizards of the Coast, and he wanted to know if do you see warlocks and hunters as sidekicks to Titans, or are they there? We might not get out of here alive.
Yeah.
Or are they there to serve as a useful contrast for the Titans' greatness? And so obviously I play a warlock, and so I would ask the same question, but just with the warlock like in the cool place.
I don't even know how to answer that.
I'm not even sure. I think it's like a Zen koan. I don't think it's meant to be answered. It's just meant to be considered.
I mean, for me though, I have all three. in my retail accounts, they're all within 100 hours of each other. Like, so they've all been played roughly equivalently. I like the way that I play the game is I move through them like the game seasonally, and then usually play a different character for each season, pretty intensely, and then jump back around to get like additional runs of trials or whatever. If it's not the season of Hunter, I'll do trials of my Warlock and Hunter. But I look at them all. I mean, I like all of them. This is the coward's way out, but it's actually true. Like, I kind of like all of them.
You love all your children?
I do like, well, they're not just, I mean, I like all three of the classes in the way that in a game like World of Warcraft, which is a game that I like definitely cut my teeth on.
Ouch.
You can see the chip. I mean, I really only fell in love with a couple of the classes in that game. There were some classes I could just kind of entirely ignore. Where in Destiny, like I feel like I can play and like all the classes, and so I do. And then I also get weirdly into the dress-up game. Like I get really interested in like, ooh, how am I gonna make this Titan look better than my friends? And I'm profoundly colorblind, which means it's almost impossible for me to make anything that looks really cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, what about these two things? So they're like, no. You can't do that. Like in D2, we have a different, we're doing something different with shaders where you can sort of dye each piece individually. So you're like, you can do your shoulder pads.
Oh, yeah.
You can do your shoulder pads as, yellow and your boots as green or whatever. And those are the sorts of things I would do. Yellow shoulder pads and green boots. And then I'd be like, hey, Mike, check it out. Do I look good? He's like, you're super colorblind. And there's so like, I end up just like hopelessly incapable of making my characters look good. Like our art director, Mike Zach, he like over the summer we're playing and like text me pictures of his Hunter. And I'm like, how do those shaders go together? And I'll text him mine, who I think looks really good, and he's like, you're just using the one shader. That's all you're doing. Like looks down at me for it. I'm like, dude, I can't see the other colors. Help me. Please just tell me, like, with this thing, what should the arms be? What one should I use? Just give me, I need the words. No, you use the magenta and white one. I can't see magenta. I don't know what that is.
You would love magenta. Yeah. So good. So good. This is magenta.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
I'm wearing magenta too.
Magenta twins. All right. So it seems like from the initial videos, like Destiny sort of brought us into this place, and we're resurrected, and we're sort of learning about the state of play, and that's largely what's happening in Destiny. But in Destiny 2, you actually have you've created like an asshole. Like you have this. It seems to me like there's an arc. Like, we sort of know who the dick is. Like, I didn't really know about Apotheon, you know what I mean? But I know from the get-go that there is, like, a mean person named Gaul.
Yep.
And so, do you feel like with Destiny 2, like, it'll be easier to get into it if there is sort of an arc and you sort of have this entity out there?
I think it'll be easier in two ways. Like, I think it'll be easier both to get into, but also to, like, understand the resolution for. Like I think in Destiny 1 you had this experience where you like, and it's a balance for us, like, because you want, on one hand, you want the game to have a sense of resolution. Like,
yes.
There was a problem, I solved it, and then on the other hand,
check out the hook while the DJ revolves it.
Yeah.
Right?
And then on the other hand,
hold on, Vanilla Ice got more woos than either of us. So let's cry about that later.
But then, on the other hand, on the other side of this resolution, you want players to continue playing because there's a bunch of other stuff to do. And like, this is the place where in Destiny 2, you have things like flashpoints and the nightfalls and the raid and all this like trials, like all this other stuff opens up. So sort of like a second game emerges, and so you have to have a resolution to be emotionally satisfying, but you can't have your resolution be like, and then you power the box off. Because what we want to do with a game like Destiny is build a game that you can come back to, and that when you come back to it, there's stuff for you to do.
Right.
There's reasons for you to come back and hang out with your friends or make new friends.
Right. So
I mean, one of the reasons I bounced off Destiny at first was because I had like a specific idea in my mind about how it was going to be. Like, obviously, it was Bungie that was doing something else, and I sort of understood the Halo thing, and then obviously the big complaint was that there wasn't the story in the game. And then a lot of the story was coming up via the Grimoire cards, and I complained bitterly about these. But now the Grimoire cards are my favorite part of the game, and you took them out. So I just want to make sure you know that you're a fuck up, and you can't actually win. You can't make me happy. But
This, we have 14 minutes left.
don't worry, it's all this. No, because like the Books of Sorrow was probably my favorite piece of writing from that year. Like that's one of the coolest pieces of science fiction I have ever read, and it was delivered. You know, functionally speaking, I went to the wiki and was able to absorb it based on the work that everyone else had put in. And then when I thought about it, even with the Halo games, a lot of my favorite storytelling for Halo was either in books or it was in even like advertising. Like I Love Bees is still one of my favorite sci-fi stories.
Mine too. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Holy
mine too.
shit.
Love it. Incredible.
Right? And
sorry, I want to talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
And then you can come back to telling me why I'm an idiot.
Yeah, you're back.
Did you do the whole I Love Bees? Did you like do it? Like you participated? You went to the movie theater at the end of it, and you said like whatever the password, like you don't fake the fuck, got it nasty, or whatever it was. And the guy at the movie theater looks at you like you're just the biggest dork, and you're like, no, I'm just here for the disc. But you had to like say something to him, but they didn't train everyone. Did everyone else not have this experience?
No. I went to a payphone, and it felt so weird to me that I couldn't do it anymore.
But at the end of it, there's a disc that you can get.
Oh yeah. No, I followed it from afar, but like I was in the forums that were trying to break down the codes and stuff, and I don't know. Like I still have a picture. We still have a picture of the operator, like in the office, like it is mounted there because it's the best.
Then
I realized, but basically what I realized is that I was actually wrong. That there's a lot of effective storytelling in the Grimoire cards. So if you're like a lore nerd like me, and also a somebody who tries to create things too, different mediums are just more effective at different types of communication. Yep. So if there isn't a Grimoire card, how does that like nerd, like now I'm in, like now I'm invested, but where does that lore nerd get hooked up with this shit now?
Well, we wanted to try something different and actually like take a bunch of the content and the time that we would spend on the Grimoire out of the game and do all of that work and put it in the game. So the way that it works in Destiny 2 is...
Now you got some woos.
There's the same 5 people who are buying it. So, thank you. So now the way that it works, like let's look at, for instance, an exotic, and we'll talk about Cold Heart.
Yeah.
So when you get Cold Heart, which is the exotic you get for buying the game in the first week or whatever the details are, it's a sweet gun. On the weapon tab itself, when you're on the details screen, you can press the L2 button, and it'll slide out basically a story that is on the weapon. So it's like it's in the game, and it'll slide out the story, and it's gonna. Here's the thing: I'm not gonna like. And I worked super closely with the writers and the narrative team on this stuff, and so every single exotic in the game has a lore tab. Every single weapon, every single piece of armor in the raid and trials has lore associated with it. And so this was something that... This is something that like we're passionate about too, and that's like one side of the coin. The other side of the Destiny 2 lore coin is in the stuff that you can scan and find in the world. So when you're running around the locations, like you're gonna find stuff like there's on one of the planets there maybe you'll stumble into a cave and you'll scan some of the stuff in the cave and you'll find out that it's from the character who you've been working with on that particular planet, and it's their campsite from before this like thing happened to them. And so you're gonna get this in this other way, which is the like action game kinetic way through the elective environment scanning of the world. and then also, of course, on the items that you care about and love. And so, I think that we're going to surprise folks with how much stuff there is to read.
Thanks, man. I like words. Hey, so Guardians are, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that Guardians are servants, they're light-imbued servants of the Traveler. They are martial paragons, like they're at peak efficiency and performance.
I mean, some of them. I don't know who you play with. And everyone I play with is at peak efficiency.
No, I will be honest with you. In Vault, there's a jumping puzzle, and I had to stand on the side after the puzzle and just watch Mike fall into the hole laughing. I mean, it had to be 15 minutes. Like, I went and got something to eat. You know what I mean?
But you're, in theory, some peak efficiency.
It seems like a person who is executing at that level would be able to remember the dances I bought from Destiny 1.
The collision of fiction and game mechanics. Yeah.
It seems like they'd be able to remember a couple of them. Like,
I don't know how that gets fictionally written away.
Well, here, I have a theory.
Okay.
So it's been established in the initial content drop for Destiny 2 that Gaul has stolen the light in a way. They have sort of drawn it out. Now, does that mean that Gaul knows the dances? And can Gaul perform the dances that he stole from us?
So I think you said something somewhere where you're like interested in a job, right?
Yeah. I'm just telling you, this is the kind of incredible fucking material I can drop on a daily basis. Put me in, coach. So, tell me absolutely everything, up to and including loot drops and percentage chances about the first raid.
Okay. Do you just want to just roll the clip of the playthrough, just the complete end-to-end playthrough that I brought?
That would be.
Show that.
Don't do that, because they will eat part of us and leave the rest of us on the street.
Like suddenly, like the seatbelts appear and lock everyone in, and then the video just rolls. Revenge. I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the raid.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah. As much as you can.
A little bit.
All of
it. So it's coming out on, I know, September the 13th at 10 a.m. I want to talk about how we arrived at that date, because then that just fills some time.
Did you actually is that the real date?
It's the real date. September the 13th at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And so we thought about a bunch of different dates for the raid, and one of the popular days was the first Tuesday after the reset, so that would have been the 12th. And that makes pretty good sense, except for if you're one of the players who wants to be there on the first day, because that means that you have this experience where you get up at like 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. and you've got to do all of your weekly activities. So you're like, I gotta figure out what I gotta do to get through the nightfall this week. Like, there's Sonic the Hedgehog rings to jump through. Good God, like, what are these guys? Like, all this stuff, and you have this intense day of work, and then the raid comes out, and your eyes are already bloodshot. And so what we want to do is give people a day, but still keep the raid tight to launch, where it was still close, so that you didn't have to wait. I read some article recently where it was like, that's what they added, the Vault of Glass, after the game shipped. Like, no, it was there. It was part of it. Like, we didn't add it late. Like, so want people to know it's there, especially when the lights are burning the hottest in terms of our players. And so we wanted to give people basically two weekly resets to get ready for it, and then get an opportunity to get in there the first week and do it. When we set out to build this raid, we always look at the raids from a perspective of giving people something a little bit different.
Well, and my understanding, you tell me if this is wrong, it's just the information that I know from the people that I know that are sort of involved in that process. There's a lot of non-shooter designers that you bring in specifically to
approach these mechanics in a different way.
Yeah, when we were forming the original raid team, we the team that, and this was one of the things that I did a few years ago, was looking at how do we build this team, like, think of it like a pie, and build this team that represents all these different pieces who, when they come together, they're going to make something awesome, but individually they have different skills. And at Bungie, I think one of our core competencies is things like action game and sandbox feel and things like that. And so we could look to other areas, like we could look to multiplayer online games or MMOs or whatever to bring in different styles of thinking to then collide the two sauces. And so each raid ends up with sort of like ideally a central idea. And the thing about we sit down and talk about what is that central idea going to be, and then the raid lead, this guy Gavin Irby, who's awesome, he takes that central idea back to the team, and then the team comes up with a bunch of different mechanics in there. And so with the next raid, we wanted to have a place that felt simultaneously different than any place we've ever created in Destiny, but additionally was a place that you believed in the fiction of the world could exist. And then we also wanted to just continue to pile on responsibilities to this thing and make sure that it felt connected to the arc of the game in a way that was satisfying, and then felt connected to the overall experience of being, loving Destiny in a way that, maybe you don't totally expect. But all of these things were really important to us when we set out to build this raid. And then, there are some new themes that the team, wanted to explore, and I think they did a great job.
Details.
So,
details.
I think that I referenced a weapon in a post recently, a weapon called Midnight Coup, and Midnight Coup is in fact a weapon that drops from the raid. The name of the weapon is telling a part of the story that when you get this weapon and you read the lore tab for it, explains to you what the Midnight Coup was and who was involved. But I don't want to say anything more about who it is or what was going on or like the fiction behind the armor, because I think that so much of this is way more fun for people to discover than to listen to two guys wearing magenta talk about on a Twitch stream.
Well, that's fair. So Destiny 2 coming out 2018? January? I don't know.
No. Destiny 2 is coming out on, I think it's like September 6th next week.
Oh shit, that's
it's
really
close.
soon.
Do you have some time off booked?
Wow.
Do you think you can get some time off?
Fuck yeah, I guess it's actually really close. Okay, that's cool.
And then also, just to, while we're here at PAX, we have the Destiny 2 experience at the Paramount Theater, which, there's panels starting there at 12 o'clock today, shortly after here. If, for the 5 people who wooed, you can probably go.
Absolutely.
Everyone else is going to stay to hang out with you guys. But we have a whole thing going on over there. You can go check out the game. A bunch of the teams there working, and one of the things
that's true.
One of the things that the team at Bungie loves, and I see it whenever we go to E3 and I talk to the folks from the team who are working, is they love interacting with our community, and like the passion that you guys as players show them means so much to all of us at the company. And so thank you so much for showing that. And if you go over there and say hi to the folks working and tell them what they need to do to make the game better, or go for it.
Absolutely.
They'd love to hear it.
PAX West 2017. Will you please thank Luke Smith for coming out? All right. I'll be back in a second.